This episode of Reasonably Spontaneous Conversation is brought to you by In Search of the New Compassionate Male. For more information, go to newcompassionatemale.com.
Hello, world. It's me, Dennis, and welcome to a reasonably spontaneous conversation with my friend, Bonnie Neel. Let me tell you, before I bring Bonnie on, I want to tell you a little bit about her. She is a West Texas girl and who has spent her life in global intelligence, and a few years ago she moved to Austin, where we met because we were both in a comedy Toastmasters group. And the woman is hilarious. She's brilliant. And I got a chance to learn about her. And since then, she's gone into the mortgage brokerage business, has gotten all kinds of accolades. And we're going to learn about the hottest market in the United States, which is Austin. And we're going to learn a lot more about global intelligence. We're going to learn about credit scores. We're going to learn mostly about this woman, Bonnie Neel. There she is. Hello, Bonnie.
Hello. How's everyone?
Wonderful. Well, anyway, welcome. I am Renee Yaworski is directing our program today, and she's going to be taking notes and getting questions from people about mortgage and how to get our homes and what do we do and how the finances are and all that. So we're going to get into that, right? So before we go on, tell me a little bit about what's going on in this hot market that is Austin. When something happens like this, and all these companies around the world start headquartering here and bringing people here and all, what happens to you as a mortgage broker? First of all, what is a mortgage broker?
Well, I'm a mortgage banker, but it's
banker. All right. What does that mean? What does that mean? Tell me.
Well, all right. So there's essentially usually like three ways to get a mortgage loan. A mortgage is a loan that's attached to a house that helps you buy residential property. The three main ways, the usual easiest way that people do is they start with their banks or their credit unions. Yeah. And then the other way past that is usually a mortgage broker, which is kind of what I think you're thinking. A mortgage broker is usually sort of an entrepreneur who, has been in the industry for a while and has actual relationships with individual banks. And so the broker goes out there and finds the client and then kind of makes the client with whichever bank usually has the best interest rate or has the best program for them.
Sure.
I'm the third option. So I work for a mortgage bank, and a mortgage bank is exactly what it sounds like. It's a bank that all they do is mortgages. So that's the only kind of loans they do. And we do everything from the originating, the processing, the underwriting, the funding, and then we sell it once we're done with it. So we sell it on the open market. So that's what I do. I'm a mortgage banker.
Okay. When you sell it on the open market, I mean, that to me sounds like what happened in 2008 when people started putting these things together. So what is it that this bank does to prevent doing that? How are we preventing doing what happened in 2008 with the financial crisis when people were bundling loans together and selling them out? I know that those were subprime.
Well, that still happens. We are still bundling loans together and selling them to investors. They call them mortgage-backed securities. The reason why we like that, the reason why we like to do that is because it allows banks to sell these loans and therefore get the money back and therefore lend it out again, right? So it does allow for people to continue to buy houses. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It is part of the way in which the market remains liquid. What happened in 2008 and 2009 is, the regulators just basically, went outside for an ongoing cigarette break and never really they didn't. You had the credit rating agencies that would put in prime paper. They were saying this group of loans is absolutely wonderful when it was subprime mortgages, and subprime mortgages means high risk mortgages, meaning giving loans to borrowers who are quote unquote high risk, and that means not checking anybody's credit. That means not checking anybody's income. That means not checking anybody's actual cash in hand. They called those stated loans, stated income, stated asset loans. They created, the banks created products. They created loans that had kind of zero accountability, and then they bundled them
Mhm.
up with a whole bunch of other loans with good accountability, and then sold them to investors on the
Right.
open market, and was like, sure, who knows what's going to
Exactly.
happen.
Well, and I knew something was wrong. This was back in like 2007 when I was watching one of the like MSNBC shows, and they added a guy on there, and he goes, "Housing prices are going to go up forever."
Always.
Okay,
Yes.
now wait a minute. Forever? Wait a minute. Anytime you say something like that, that is a big red flag. So, what have we done to prevent happening? As far as from your side of the world, do you think we're preventing that? We've got some things in place to prevent that from happening now.
We do have some things in place, right? I mean, Congress learns very, very, very slowly, and they change things very, very slowly. But some
Hmm.
changes did happen after the financial crisis that benefited the consumer and theoretically have set out to kind of stabilize the housing market.
Sure.
The subprime loan is coming back, right? It never really went
Hmm.
away, but it was kind of less popular and went away in popularity. So it's
Right.
slowly coming back. But things that were done is that they did make the guidelines, they did make the regulations for the standard loans, like the conventional loans, the
Hmm.
FHA loans backed by the federal government. They
Sure.
did make those guidelines a little bit stricter, and they did make accountability a little bit tighter. And they essentially created an entire industry that's pretty much dedicated to mortgage compliance.
Yeah.
That's what my sister does. She was a loan officer before the financial crisis, and now kind of funny. I was a trader before and during the financial crisis, and she was a loan officer. And now we've kind of just switched. I'm now a loan officer, and now she works for traders, right? Her job is to go over and look at the loans as they are bundled and sold, exactly what you're thinking
Okay.
of, right? She goes through each one of them, and she heads teams to go through each one of them and sees whether they're compliant, evaluates them about whether or not they are a compliant loan,
Got it.
and that therefore helps people price them. Because
So just in your sense, how we doing? The economy and just your sense. I mean, you are quite you're getting a lot of recognition for you're one of the top mortgage bankers in Austin, in the hottest market. You're being recognized there, and you're having that sense. So as much as you can tell me, what's your sense of are we in a good space? Are we going up? Are we how would we know?
Ooh, wow, there's a lot of questions there. I would say about Austin specifically, like I feel fairly confident that the Austin real estate market is insane and will continue to be insane. There's a lot of solid economic reasons why the Austin housing market continues to grow, continues to go
Hmm.
up. Nationwide, I think the housing market has been experiencing a short-term supply constraint that has driven
Right.
prices up. We talked about this on one of our previous, podcasts, in that, basically what the pandemic did and what the quarantine did is that
Hmm.
it just restricted people. The people who were regularly going to sell their house and buy a bigger one, people who are regularly going to sell their house and, maybe move into assisted living, like the regular ebb and flow, specifically on the supply
Sure.
side of houses, just stopped.
Yeah.
People didn't move because they didn't move, right? They stayed in their homes. That was what they did. And
Right.
that meant, but also you had this whole buying, the demand side really jacked up, mainly because, well, people didn't want to live in apartments anymore because, hey,
Sure.
pandemic, and, historically low interest rates. So you had a lot more people wanting to buy houses, a lot less people selling houses. And then so you had this huge kind of rise nationwide in home prices. And I think that is fading, like I think, or
Hmm.
losing a bit of steam. I think that's plateauing. And I think that we're going to, as the economy continues to recover, as the pandemic seems to be ebbing and, kind of being over,
Right.
I do think we'll see home prices nationwide, in certain perhaps less economically growing places. I think we'll
Hmm.
see home prices both plateau and maybe dip down.
Well, I was just wondering about that because I don't know that rental prices, because we're renters. You know, this is a rental situation because I'm taking whatever money that is extra, and instead of investing it in, well, actually not investing it yet, but we're aspirational investors. We want to get to that point. But in being able to do that as renters, we have a huge rental demand that is out there, and so do people buy investment properties to be able to do that, right?
Yes, and I don't know. Investment properties and investment purchases for properties is also driven, the housing prices going up as
Sure.
well. I don't know. I'm of two minds about it, right? I think that I think the barriers to first-time homeownership are higher than they were 20 years ago.
Sure.
That's maybe good in some ways, but I also think it's increasing this income inequality that you're seeing sort of nationwide in the economy. Renting is, I don't know. I mean, you and I know we disagree about this. The thing about renting is you're either paying your own mortgage or you're paying somebody else's.
Exactly, and that's what and it's not a disagreement. It's something that I'm truly. There's also a peace of mind. It breaks, they fix it. There is something, that we had a hailstorm. And oh my, that it was. I mean, there were like golf balls. I mean, we were talking about big baseball size hail here in Pflugerville, and it was damaged and anyhow. But that's a difference on how, at 73 I'm going to have a different experience than you. All right, now one of the things that you're doing, to whenever you're in business, you're going to market yourself, or you're going to do, you've done some YouTube videos. And so just to give, I want to show this one. I want Renee, would you please cue up Bonnie, please? And I want to show this, piece because I think it's wonderful, and you and I can watch along while you're going. Thank you, Renee.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Neel with Straight Talk on Mortgages, and today we're going to talk about credit. What is your credit score? Your credit score is a proprietary algorithm. It determines whether you can get a job. Algorithm. It can affect whether you can rent a house. Algorithm. It will tell you whether you can get a mortgage, and if that mortgage comes, how much you'll have to pay for it. Pretty soon, it's going to be kind of a threshold on Tinder. So who determines your credit score? I'm glad you asked. There are 3 private companies that are credit bureaus that use a proprietary algorithm to determine your score. You're probably familiar with these 3 lovely companies. We are known as Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. Equifax, you should know, because they just recently made headlines by having 150 million users' data hacked. And yet they failed to mention that any of that had taken place for months on end. And then when they were called out on it, they got 2 extra more government contracts. But yes, these 3 credit bureaus are here to help you. And by help you, I mean have disproportionate power over your life. Yay, credit bureaus. And no one, not even Congress, knows what goes into that proprietary algorithm. It's like the KFC's secret sauce, secret recipe, which means you don't have to tell anybody. Your credit score is both the first thing and the last thing that a mortgage lender is going to look at. Isn't that awesome? Isn't it super fair? Oh my God. Know your credit score. Knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe. The cartoons were true. All right, so these are some numbers you're going to need to know about your credit. What's a good score? Well, minimum credit score for most traditional financing is right at 620. You can get a mortgage if it's lower than that, but if it's lower than 620, usually it's going to be a little bit more expensive and a lot more complicated, but you can get one. It sucks and it keeps you really bitter. 700 is considered good. 740 is considered excellent, and anything above. If you're up there, congratulations, you're getting premium pricing. For the rest of us, most Americans, we are here 620 to 700. It can and it will change. Only if you take control of it, though. You can come to me. We can do a pre-qualification, pre-application. I can tell you some basic things about how to fix your credit. I can refer you to professional credit repair companies that are not scams. I'm Bonnie Neel, straight talk on mortgages and credit bureaus. I'm here to help.
That was my very first one.
Isn't the thing that I love about the ever since I've watched you perform is just and to do comedy with you and to do the work, Bonnie, is just you have such a connection to the audience. Were you a performer early?
I mean, no, I was a theater and speech kid in high school, but that was pretty much it. I was a shy kid, actually, as a child. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean that.
And then, as you know, I got into it later. Got into public speaking much later.
All right. So that's our credit score. So that gets us there, and that gets the people that are going. Now, tell me what happened when you got picked for one of the top mortgage bankers in Austin.
Oh, well, that's about to happen, right? So I found out that I was recently selected to be one of Austin's top mortgage professionals for Austin Monthly for their 2021 year. It'll be out in the December issue. I once I got the award, I was like, oh, how did you find out about me? How have you heard of me?
Yes.
And I found out that I was nominated by previous winners, which is actually really kind of nice, like, to get nominated by your peers. And
wonderful.
I was really excited. Another nominee is a friend of mine named Jessica Garza, and she and I both got into the industry at the same time on the same years, and so it's kind of nice to have our freshman class be kind of recognized and nominated in Austin. It's been great, especially the women.
How has coming out of the pandemic, have you moved back into the office and began having people coming in for this, or or have things changed for good?
I think things have changed for good. Before the pandemic, I was a bit of a throwback in that I really wanted to meet people in person. I specialize in first-time home buyers, and I really felt that.
I mean, you're a relationship person, Bonnie. It's all about the relationships.
Well, and it's a lot of information, and so I really kind of wanted to meet people in person and walk through a lot of information. And that, I think that's gone completely the way of the dodo. What I do right now is do just kind of insist on, especially for first-time home buyers, insist on this. Let's do a Zoom meeting or a Google's meeting and just look at each other and look at numbers together. Just have this moment to have time with each other to ask questions.
Sure.
But no, I can't imagine going back into an office and full time. That just seems a waste of expense and kind of a waste of time.
Are you limited geographically?
I am licensed in the entire state of Texas, and I'm about to get licensed in 7 more states. So it is by state. So
if you wanted to get now, because we have adopted Athens, Georgia as our like headquarters. It's a virtual headquarters. It doesn't that's where we want to have and so Georgia is we believe Georgia's like one of the last bastions of democracy. They're holding the line for us, and so we're doing that. So are you going that direction?
I am, yes. Georgia is one of the states. I'm going for New Mexico, Nevada, California, and Colorado. So, the kind of core 4 Western states.
Yep.
And then east doing Georgia, DC, Maryland, and Virginia, and then maybe North Carolina. I've not decided yet about.
Wonderful. So people could be able to contact you, and you would be able to conduct that conversation over Zoom and do that. Is that going to be the way that are going about it?
Yeah, usually what I do is I just have people schedule phone calls, and let's just have a quick 15-minute conversation and get an idea about what your timing is and what you're wanting to do. And then after you apply, let's go ahead and just schedule either 15 minutes if you're an old hand at this mortgage thing, if you've done it before and you're really just looking to, compare rates. But if you're new at this, or this is maybe your second time and you kind of want to ask some questions and kind of, learn slowly, then schedule a 30-minute Zoom conversation and we'll go over your numbers.
Good. So,
I'm a little unusual. I spend a lot of time with my clients, and most loan officers don't.
Yeah, I understand that, but spending time with Bonnie is the plus. That's the thing. And I mean, to be able to do that. Now, how one of the things that I've had a difficult time with is how do I end the day and then get into another thing and recharging. And I hear you're doing it by starting a podcast,
Oh
by going
yes,
ahead
yes.
and by starting a podcast. And so tell me, I mean, considering that I have a theory that eventually. Right now, podcasts are. I heard this wonderful thing. Dana Carvey said had just started a podcast, and he said he wanted to wait until there were 2 million podcasts just in case it was just a fad and was not going to get. But I think it's going to end up with we have 7 billion people, so we're going to have 3.5 billion podcasts, and every podcast will have one listener. So we'll be able to do that. So that'll be great.
I love it.
So I don't get. I mean, going to micro audiences. But what is your idea for your podcast?
So I've been thinking about, I've been, as you know, kind of constantly kind of kicking around doing one on mortgages and on real estate. And then that's just consumed my life this past 2 years. And so I wanted something else. I wanted to do something else. So I am very close friends with my ex-boyfriend, which I know as an odd thing. He and I.
Why? Why? I mean,
Nothing.
you have so much in common. You're like, why can't we? I don't mean to say why can't we all just get along, but seriously, what is the deal? That was there. Why can't we get over it and say, hey, what were the good parts? Let's take the good parts and move forward.
Well, he and I are in an excellent position being able to do that, mainly because we dated and broke up over 20 years ago, right? So it's been a while. We've got plenty of time to heal.
Sure, there we go. Yeah.
For the halcyon, the rose-colored glasses to come back again to remember the good times. We've been friends a lot longer than we dated, right? Which is excellent. We're much better friends than we were romantic partners, but we both kind of found, we're still friends, and we have been friends, this whole time. Well, not this whole time. There was several years afterwards.
Sure.
That was a little sharp. But we kind of find ourselves in a situation of that we're both single, we're both over 40, and we're both, wildly nosy and opinionated about each other's dating life. I just thought it'd be fun to have a podcast where we talk about dating and relationships in your 40s, because it is kind of different, with somebody who knows the good, bad, and the ugly about you. So we're doing a podcast called "Drinking with Your Ex and Other Bad Ideas." And
that is a fabulous what a fabulous premise.
It's a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, but that's what you can do. I mean, if you can enjoy that, because being 40. That's the whole thing. I mean, this is one of the things. Our director, Renee Yaworski, has. Renee, could you come on the screen for us, please?
Oh my gosh! Hello.
Right. But anyway,
I knew he was going to do this.
This is great because see, Renee turned 40 this year, and so
he tells everybody
40. No, I mean it's like 40 and fabulous. I mean because it is a different time.
Jazz hands,
being 40, and I being 73, I don't know what it's like to be a woman in her 40s in this, but could you two talk amongst yourselves about this 40 experience? I mean, because 40 in 20 years, I don't mean to say that 40 is the new. I think 40 is the new 40. It's just 40. What if we just redefined it and said what it was? What do you guys think?
I'm loving my 40s. I'm 42, and but I liked getting older. Like I really think that I don't fetishize my youth, right? I'm a much better person than I was at 16. I'm a much happier human than I was at 23. So I don't miss my 20s at all. I feel like I kind of barely survived them, and I'm really happy they're over. I loved my 30s. My 30s when I first started just calming down and, becoming somebody that I liked. And my 40s, it's just kind of hitting my stride. So I'm liking my 40s a lot. Dating in my 40s is really educational. It's you learn that that's not a universal experience of one's 40s.
Are there apps? Let me ask you, so nowadays there's apps, right? And you do swiping, but is that tailored to a middle-aged audience, or is that more like a hookup culture? Tell us about how do you go about dating in your 40s?
I would say,
especially as a woman.
This is kind of what the podcast is about, right? Is that I've got some strong opinions about the apps.
Tell us a strong opinion. Tell us a controversial opinion.
I mean, basically, I absolutely hate Tinder. I just absolutely hate Tinder.
Tinder is Tinder the swiping one? Is that
they're all swiping on some level.
They're all swiping. Okay. Yeah. All right. So Tinder is it location based?
It can be location based. It was by design to be a bit of a hookup.
Okay.
Hookup app. It is by far the easiest, right? If you just want to be like, yes, you're hot, let's meet now. Done, right? It is very efficient, I guess, is a way to look at it.
It's almost like the Grubhub. It's the Grubhub for dating, right? You just the Uber for dating. You just like make an order. You order a man, and he comes to your house. But what if he doesn't look like the? Have you ever seen like a big Whopper on the commercial, but the big Whopper you get is not the one? Has that ever happened to you? Or you order the big?
All right, but
I don't. I have a strong policy of not trusting very good-looking men, so I usually swipe left on them. I'm like, you're too pretty to trust.
Yeah, pretty boys, right? I've heard that. I've heard that people do not trust pretty boys.
Those are usually like the catfishing ones, right? Where that's not who they are. They're a bot. They're a Russian bot. They're crazy.
So it's an honor to be swiped. Which is the one you accept? You swipe right.
Swipe right the good one? is
you keep them.
Yeah.
Left is no. So a good looking. So it's an honor to be swiped left by Bonnie because that means you believe he's good looking.
That's right. That's right. That lets you know. If you get rejected by Bonnie, if you get rejected by Bonnie, goodness gracious, that means you're hot.
Okay, now let me ask you a question here. Let me ask you a question. What do you think about people who say, "Oh, just love the single life. You don't need anybody. Love yourself first." All that. What do you say to that? What are you looking for a partner for? What does that fill in you?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I prefer being alone rather than being alone with someone else, right? Because I don't like I don't like sticking in relationships.
Love that.
Don't settle.
Let's be alone together is kind of I've seen too many unhappy relationships to need that just to not be alone.
No, wait, I have one more question. I don't want to, but I have one more question about the podcast. So you and your ex, you're talking about, you actually are going through the dating life parallel. You're interested, you're kind of helping each other. Do you ever like go into his profile and help him and say, no, you are not lying to these women, like you are not like that? Yeah. Do you ever do that?
Oh, well, no, he's not much of a liar. Oddly enough.
Or lying to self. Like that is not how you actually come across, let me tell you.
Yeah, we do offer really advice on each other's profiles. The fun thing about the podcast is we introduce each other as part of like a Tinder headline, right? At the beginning of each podcast is a different introduction, and it might or might not have something to do with how we're particularly feeling about each other that day.
Oh my God!
It's a lot of fun to have your ex introduce you live on a podcast. But yeah, that was it. Your ex gets to introduce you every time, and then we each get the chance to ask one uncomfortable question per episode. And our first episode was about breakups. So,
Oh, how wonderful. And where are we going to find this? Are you going to put it on Anchor so that we can all be able to see that? All right. So we will make sure that we have, we'll make sure that we have that. And Bonnie, so can people contact you now, assuming that they want to have some kind of more, before you get licensed there? Can you at least talk to them on the original call? Do you want to wait for someone outside of Texas to contact you until you get the license?
I will probably be licensed in those states beginning in 2022. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to really talk about their particular situation until I am licensed in that
Good.
state.
So you'll come back again and be able to tell us more and be able to spend some time with us and come to the R&D Cafe and like have it maybe do some drinking with your friends on we have. All right, Renee, were there any questions that had come up from any of our viewers on that they want for Bonnie?
Yes, and I'm trying to condense them. A lot of them were kind of repeats. So, anyways, if anyone's
Sure.
watching this, I'm just, if you had something I'm not accurate about the details, it's just because it was so similar to someone else's question. So,
Sure.
and Bonnie's YouTube actually kind of answered some of these, but maybe they want you to go a little deeper. So, just first steps to buying a house. People say it's overwhelming. They literally don't even know how to start. What is literally the first step?
The first step is know your credit score, and Credit Karma is not real. Neither is whatever you get from like Chase or something like that. So it's not. It has nothing to do with mortgage lending. The credit bureaus have different algorithms which sell different scores to different lenders. So just different scores, different algorithms, different lenders. So whatever you see on Credit Karma is the Advantage algorithm that I think is it's either from Equifax or Experian. And who knows what's based on that algorithm, but I found that your Credit Karma score is wildly optimistic compared to what I actually pull as a mortgage lender. Know your credit score, and to know your credit score, that means you're generally going to have to pay for it. I recommend going to www.myfico.com and paying for it. You can pay for a 3-bureau credit pull, and it will show you what your score is for each type of lending. It will show what your score is for credit cards, show you what your score is for car loans, and show you what your score is for mortgages. And that is the score you're going to have. That is closer to accurate. And you need to know what's on your credit report. Unfortunately, it has way too much power. And if there are medical bills on it, there are almost, most Americans, we have a broken healthcare system, so most Americans have medical bills. Whenever Congress bothers to investigate the credit bureaus, usually they do it about once every 10 years. And they serve them drinks and cookies at their congressional hearings. But, they find that the credit bureaus, around 30% of all reports have inaccurate information. 30%.
Oh my gosh.
And
I did
credit
not know
bureaus are
that.
under no obligation to make sure that information is correct. The only thing they have an obligation to do is make sure they can send it out to people quickly. So it's up to you to look at it and to make sure that the information is correct. You can get a free one, but you can't get the scores without paying for them. So
and if you're in that sweet spot, you said around 7 something and above, then the next step is
really 620 and above, you can buy a house.
All right, but
620 and above.
Let me ask you, how much investment are we talking about per credit rating to be able to do? What kind of money are people putting out to get these?
So I believe the 3-bureau credit report is a subscription now at myfico.com. I think it's around like $50 to $60 a month. Okay. So it's a subscription. And you can just get 1 month subscription. I subscribe to it because it keeps track of things that show up on my credit report. So I actually get to see it. But yeah.
Got it.
But you need to know what the actual scores are.
Got it.
Okay. So thank you. So the next question, just want to go through here while we have time. The best location to buy a house. And I don't know if they mean Austin neighborhoods or just the whole country, because I know you're getting licensed in other places. So if someone really had that flexibility, a lot of people are working remotely. What is where would you say, where's a good market? I mean,
I honestly, it's really just what it is you want, right? There's no good or bad market. It's what you want in a house. I've seen people who, now they have the flexibility to work remote. They're moving out to the country. They want some dates and some chickens, and they want in one memorable moment, I want to be able to walk out naked in my backyard.
Right.
Be off my back porch, and I'm like, freedom. So,
I mean, we're talking right now virtual reality, where you're going to be able to put on a goggles and haptics and give the actual experience of being in the office, or being in directly across from someone, and have that kind of have that physical experience that we might not have had before.
Right. Yes. So choose whatever you want. What makes your home feel good? Because the idea of it is an asset and it is an investment, but it is also your home. So it needs to be someplace that you want to live. Everybody says to be non-emotional about real estate, but it's impossible as a mammal to be non-emotional about where you're living. So find out where you want to live. What kind of house do you want? Where do you want it to be? Near family, away from family.
Okay. We got 2 more. Do they look at age or demographics when determining to buy a house? I guess that's for the loan. I guess they're talking about loans.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
What
looking.
other things-
I'm like 73. So if I'm taking out a 30-year mortgage, they're going to go, ha!
Nope, they don't. Not at all. They really don't.
So that is not being taken. So that's
Nope.
something, a myth that's been perpetrated by, I know, Hollywood. I see that all the time, but apparently that's not true, people. Okay.
No, so I mean, so age is a protected class, which means that if you decline somebody for credit based on their age, then you have violated their equal housing opportunities. No, my aunt, who I've told you about, who I know and I love, she signed a 30-year mortgage for an apartment in Manhattan, and I think she was 79, and she was like cackling as she walked away. She's like, ha, 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 ha. And I was like, no, it's not. I believe age. I think you have to just be 18 or older.
Sure.
Okay. Fantastic. Okay. So 2 more questions. One is about what is the problem with timeshares? And then also, would you recommend someone investing in rental property in this market? So those are the last 2.
Oh my. Okay. So I don't know much about timeshares. They're a little bit outside of my understanding. My difficulties with timeshares is I think I would compare them to what I do know, which is condos, right?
Right.
And condos are considered a higher risk asset than, say, a regular single family home. And I assume timeshares are risky for the exact same reason, right? Because you're not buying a piece of dirt with a house attached to it. You are not buying a finite unit. You are buying a piece of a larger whole.
Right.
And that value of that condo or that value of that timeshare is not dependent on your ownership. It's dependent on the overall management of that property.
Exactly. And you have no idea what other people will be doing with it or taking care of it while you're not. So that puts a lot of risk outside of your control.
Yes. And that's why it's seen as a higher risk of an asset and higher risk of an ownership, right? You just you don't have control over its value.
What about investment property?
I have a lot of investors now. Everybody loves investing right now because real estate is reasonably cheap because the money's reasonably cheap, right? Sure. Interest rates are very low. It's not for everybody, but it's a great way to, diversify your investments, right?
Right.
Investing in real estate is a way to gain long-term passive income, right?
Sure.
Either get used to being a landlord.
How to be a landlord. There must be a, landlord 101. How do you got to find someone to take care of your home and your property when you're not there.
Yes. So get used to being a landlord or find a really good property management company and just run the numbers and be honest with yourself about whether this is, how long, if this property is going to be cash flow negative, how long is it going to be cash flow negative? When do you expect to start making money off of it? How long do you expect to start making money off of it? And definitely have some savings for rainy days. Keep in mind, nobody was expecting the pandemic, and then people didn't have to pay rent for up to 18 months.
Exactly. And we'll figure it out. But when they had that rental deferral payment, doesn't that come due? I mean, if you deferred the rent, don't you have to then come back and pay it?
I don't think we know.
Ooh.
As far as I understand, those programs, no.
They just took. Oh my goodness, that's something. Anyway, Bonnie, thank you so much for giving us a chance to be able to spend time with you, Renee, where are you? There you are.
Thank you for letting me come on.
I'm so glad that we got a chance to see 2 40 and fabulous women who are absolutely lighting up the sky in our reality. We get an opportunity because right now the world is going to be saved by Western women. I mean, this is one of the things I deeply believe it. This is what the Dalai Lama, that was a quote from the Dalai Lama, that we're going to be. I like that. Did everyone see that? When I said it, I got eye rolls from both of them. Then when I attributed it to the Dalai Lama, and then
my spirit changed.
No, see,
I judged you, and then you said it was the Dalai Lama, and I was cool with it.
Then
that
you
happened.
were cool with it. Then
that
you
was
were
real.
Cool. I want everyone.
I didn't trust you. I trusted the Dalai Lama.
Exactly. I just want everyone to see that my credibility compared to the Dalai Lama is way, way different. But that's okay.
Should test it. We should test it.
Exactly the same thing. We both said exactly the same thing, but the credibility. Okay. Anyway,
I feel like we should test that, and whatever we want people to actually trust, just say the Dalai Lama said it.
Or
Ram Dass. Or Ram Dass.
Or Ram Dass. Yeah.
I was worrying about why you feel particularly competitive with the Dalai Lama there. I'm not quite sure that's a race you can win. Just
you can't win. You can never win.
Try. He's the Tom Brady of spirituality. Don't
really
bet against him. Do not bet against the Dalai Lama. You will lose every time. Anyway. Renee, Bonnie, thank you so much for spending a reasonably spontaneous conversation here on the Tardan Media Network. And I'll ask you this, and I apologize for doing this on the air, but we're going to have, we're going to really have you as one of our experts to be able to come on and off. So whenever we have ideas and questions, we're going to want to bring you on as a designated. So we'll send you we'll get you a mug and get you, so that you'll have all. You'll have the accoutrement that goes along with being an official Tardan Media Network.
We'll send her the mug. She'll get the mug.
Yes.
Definitely. There you go.
Anyway, thank you, Bonnie and Renee. Thank you for directing today, and thank you everyone. Thank you everyone out there for joining us on a reasonably spontaneous conversation on a lovely November pre-fall back time, and we look forward to everyone. We will see all of you very soon and next time.
This episode of Reasonably Spontaneous Conversation was brought to you by In Search of the New Compassionate Male. For more information, go to newcompassionatemale.com.